Welcome to Board Meetings. In this episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the lovely Dr. Ashley Heintz. We connected to our breath and explored the beautiful waterways and mangrove tunnels off the Gandy Beach on the St. Pete side of Gandy, near the Getaway and Irving High. Ashley's as passionate, talented, and cool as she is great at what she does. If we are going to nominate a queen of the hippies, I nominate you.
I'm already towing Queen Ashley here.
Of course.
In her natural element back there.
The joy, mastery, and passion that is Ashley Heintz comes out in this interview, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know her better.
Aaron McCoy here with Dr. Ashley Heintz. Welcome. Ashley, I'm very fortunate to be next door or just two doors down? We share a wall.
Yeah.
We share a wall. So Ashley is a practitioner at Kodawari Studios where what'd you say you do? You poke people with needles and stab people with needles. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine, so everything in the scope of Chinese medicine is basically acupuncture, which is the needles, cups, which is the glass suction cups. I do fire cupping, which is more aggressive than the ones on a pump or machine. And then also there's some other modalities like gua sha, moxa, but just a little bit of witchcraft.
A little bit of witchcraft, a little bit of just your awesomeness.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing this Chinese medicine and acupuncture?
By myself for 8 years.
For 8 years.
But I did 2 years, I was telling you earlier, working kind of like a apprenticeship, and then I did a 3-year clinical experience in the clinic as a student. So
very cool.
12 years total.
And Ashley is so good at this that she has won Best of the Bay. Not once, but twice. So tell me a little bit about how people find you. How do people know about this? How did you build your following and your awareness?
It was all word of mouth for the most part. So I just try to be really good and get them better as quick as I can so they'll trust me. I try to make sure nobody feels sold, so they can trust the medicine, and then my whole practice has pretty much been built on word of mouth.
Word of mouth. I mean, because it works. It literally is magic. I was fortunate enough to do some acupuncture and cupping with Ashley, and I had a little bit of pain in my back, and I always felt it. And for real, I don't know if it was the placebo effect or how effective this stuff is. I felt amazing afterwards for an extended period of time. It's all of that tension had gone. So tell me a little bit about the science behind how it works.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's funny, the word placebo effect. So now there is so much science to validate the effectiveness of it. So when people ask me in my practice, they're like, oh, what's happening? Can you explain it? I always say, do you want the Eastern explanation, which is the creators of the medicine from 3,000 years ago, or do you want the Western explanation, which is what biological changes can be measured?
Yes.
So what, I'm assuming you're asking the latter.
Yeah.
Maybe. So every treatment, no matter what you're treating, systemically decreases inflammation because you're creating all these micro injuries, so your body's going to respond by sending your inner pharmacy, so to speak, which is why it's good for pain. And then also every treatment, no matter what you're treating, causes your midbrain to dump endorphins into your bloodstream. So you're getting a hormonal override of your stress hormones, which is why it's good for insomnia, anxiety, why I believe it's so good for fertility. But that doesn't explain why specific points
certain points, there's a map.
And now they're working on that. They're finding these channels in the connective tissue that will connect your ring finger to your pericardium and things like that. But they have in the West, they've studied certain acupuncture points. There's one in your shin that they can prove when you stimulate it, it causes your white blood cell count to go up and helps your immune system, which is
That's amazing.
It's amazing because they wrote this 3,000 years ago without microscopes the ability, just insane.
Yeah, all the tests.
Yeah.
And this and that and the other.
Yeah, and so the Chinese model is based on a meridian system, so it looks like a highway. I don't know if you've seen the pictures in my office.
Yeah, I have seen it. I have.
And so, it's kind of like tuning into a radio station. Basically, it's a nervous system, and the idea that it's the idea that any pain or pathology in the body is a block in one of those meridians.
Okay.
And so the points are at dams, if you will, to unleash what they call chi, what we might call ATP or blood. Through the channel. So, and then once everything's open and clear, your body can communicate with itself and begin to heal itself. But now, 20 years ago in an autopsy, they found all because the idea that it was just a placebo was based on, we don't have these channels in the body. Yeah. We don't have these points. But now they found in a connective tissue, which is Do I need?
Yeah, all the
do
fascia.
Do your followers know what fascia is?
No, yeah, dude.
So if you took your skin off, you would still maintain your shape because underneath your skin there's a net made of collagen. It looks like a spider web.
Yep.
And it generally used to be just considered just structural, but now they're finding that it's piezoelectric. There's water that is communicating within these channels, and the channels are the same as the acupuncture channels. So acupuncturists were like, what? Which is awesome, but also it kind of takes away from the magic of it when you can like explain it. But so those channels are there in the connective tissue. And then also there's a book called The Spark in the Machine where the scientists figured out that the process of mitosis is on acupuncture channels. So when you go from a zygote to like say a thing with one arm and one leg, the process of becoming that when a cell divides, each spot like that has the most cell division is on an acupuncture point. So kind of like say like the programming, the software of the human body.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, so anybody who's heard me talk about fascia, have you seen Avatar?
Of course.
So Avatar, the scene where they like connect back to the tree.
Yes.
I literally think fascia is our connection to nature.
I love that.
It's like mycelium of our bodies.
I love that. Like I always think that of like the quantum bubble as connective tissue, and on ayahuasca I saw like the fabric of the universe as connective tissue, but I never thought that was our connection to it.
It's like it's mycelium, like how mycelium works and it passes on wisdom between trees. I think fascia is how we can kind of connect and interact with.
Well, and that's where we store all of our like the reason we have pain and stuff is in that because it's a database.
And again, that's what's so cool about what Ashley does. If you go back to what she said about like those dams or those blockages and inflammation, that's the cause of all-cause mortality. All of those things are back to inflammation and oxidative stress. So if you can do things that release some of that blockage, the body can heal itself. And all of the magic, like you said, nature's pharmacy. I freaking love that. So really what acupuncture is it's a holistic way to do what a lot of things that medicine can't. It can not only be the catalyst to healing, it is the healing.
All the side effects are positive.
All of the side effects are positive, which brings me back to a funny story, and I'll have to find these videos of when my father came and saw Ashley. So this was about a month after he had his mountain bike accident when we were downhill mountain biking in Winter Park. So Pops ran into a tree, had some nerve pain, and it was funny, like the next day, he just seemed like at ease. He was just like, that was amazing. What happened? What's going on in my back? All that kind of stuff. So you had quite the funny experience with Pops.
It's always fun. Yeah, it's always fun, but he was especially fun because he gave me a lot of shit.
He was talking shit. I think I might actually have that, so we might clip that in. So how do you know where to start with somebody? Are there like the normal meridians where you can just kind of assume, or do you size somebody up? How do you go?
It depends. So if I'm like on a spree where I'm like studying something in particular, like a certain protocol plan, and then everybody becomes a nail and I'm a hammer, and I'm like, I want to do this to everybody. But that's not good. That's not what I should do. But normally...
Now, my clients are all my guinea pigs. I tell them that all the time.
I say that too. I'm doing experiments all the time.
People always say, how do you know all of this stuff? You know all of this weird stuff. Because I've experimented. I've tried on all sorts of different people. I know what is likely to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of it's intuition, and then you're applying what you're learning.
Yeah, there's a structure based on school. So the intake. So for like a lot of people know acupuncture for pain. So it starts with, where's your pain? When did it start? Is it better or worse in the morning? Is it better or worse with heat or cold? And it's kind of getting the person to really understand and communicate where and what their pain is and the quality of it. Is it sharp? Is it dull? But then if it's something like fertility.
Because you do a lot of that.
I do half my practice, I would say, is fertility.
Half the practice. So if you're having problems getting knocked up, maybe you don't have to spend $60,000 and do all that stuff.
I mean, and I do work with a lot of IVF patients, but I never intended to work with fertility patients, and it's the way that I do it is nothing like how I was trained to do it, because most acupuncturists for fertility are like, all right, we need to see you twice a week, every week, and I only see women once a month because...
Do it when they're ovulating or what?
Right before. Okay. I noticed early on in my practice that all my fertility patients were the same archetype of a woman. They were all like a taskmaster, control freak, super type A. I never had like a stoner chick.
The
or like
achievers,
so the stress hormones in the blood, right, send a signal to your body it's not safe. Yeah. So you'll never get pregnant if your body is sending the signal it's not safe.
That's not divine feminine. How are you going to be a vessel of life?
Right. Yeah. And you divine feminine, or you can look at cortisol, right? Like, cortisol being not the design feminine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I meant.
No, I know exactly what you mean. But cortisol is a response to inflammation and stress.
Right.
All of us that are living toxically move they're in that state.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it's and those women are doing everything right to get pregnant.
Yeah,
like
and they're
vitamins.
Studied, they're
researched. And they're like, I meditate
everything.
every day and I do it perfectly, and it's so funny. So acupuncture is a way to kind of like cheat, where you don't have to do the work, it can do it for you. So I just have them come in right before ovulation. And again, the endorphin dump that happens overrides the stress hormones while they're ovulating, and I'm just like, do your part and get as busy as you can.
Yeah, get after
and then
it
then I started having women get pregnant just after one treatment, and then they started sharing that experience on Facebook and like South Tampa moms.
I've seen some of the testimonials, and it's like,
call me the baby maker. I'm like, this must be how dudes feel when they're like, I knocked her up. But
I'm in life.
That's how I get to feel all the time.
Pretty incredible feeling.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Although I always share this story. I had a woman that was coming in. She came in like 7 times and wasn't getting pregnant. And I was like, tell me, like, how frequently are you sleeping with your husband? And she was like, oh, I haven't yet. And I was like, how do you think, like, if I could do that without him, I would be so much more famous. Yeah, but I was like, I don't think you understand. I don't think you're ready for a child. But.
So you see people in pain.
Yes.
You see, you knock up women. But you also I see quite a few baseball players coming through there too, right?
Yeah, and that's so that's
Pitchers.
kind of preventative. I see a lot of high school and college athletes that just do the cups, because I always say it's like the Tin Man adding oil to the joints, like cupping their shoulder joints or cupping around their hip or their back, just keeps everything lubricated and prevents injury.
And so how does that work? It brings the blood flow kind of that spot, or like how exactly does cupping work?
With cupping, if you have pain, the assumption is either there's an ischemic muscle that's in spasm, so there's no blood, so the mark would be really pale, and so you're just pulling blood into that ischemic tissue, so the tissue will soften, like adding water to dough. Or when you see like the really gnarly purple and black dots, that's that there was a tight muscle that got torn, either from like working out or moving too quickly, blood falls into the tear, and then it just sits there, it can't circulate, so it loses its color, it loses its oxygen, that's why it's dark. And so also, if no new blood can come into that muscle tissue, then it can't repair. So you're pulling out all the old stagnant blood, so new blood can flush and repair, and that's usually where this most like intense pain is. It comes up super dark because it's just been like old blood sitting there for a long time.
Okay.
And
because those are the usually painful spots as well, if I remember.
Yes, or the ones that get used over and over again. So you're always you can. And so when I cup people, I'll just do like the entire surface area and look for the black marks and focus there.
And then you follow the lines.
Yeah,
because
a lot of times somebody has pain, like say in their rhomboids, and it's the tear is actually like in their lat. So yeah,
it's usually a joint above or below. The site of pain is really just the site of pain. The cause is usually
you hear that, folks?
Yeah.
So don't get mad when I'm needling somewhere not near your pain.
Yeah, exactly. It's above or below, and it's. I mean, I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah.
Most people's knee pain, for example, is because of their ankle or their hip is fucked up, and it could be same side, it can be opposite sides. So, have you seen any like weird little patterns, or is there any like physical things that you see over and over again in the common folk?
Constantly. Okay. Well, I will share. There was interesting when with the wave of COVID coming through, I got to see like with each variant, the long-term side effects were so different. There was a time last December when the Delta variant was going through that everybody was coming to me with UTIs, and after getting COVID, and I would say, I think it's COVID, and they would be like, no, it's a UTI. They would get on antibiotics, but I was seeing it so frequently, and my friends were telling me, and I even put on Instagram like, did anyone who had COVID get a UTI? And like 40 people wrote me. So I felt like something was there, but I could never find any medical literature to back that up. But I just kept seeing it over and over again. See if there's anything more interesting than UTI.
Yeah, I was just saying that's what's so cool about just the practice in general, right? Because it is kind of that East meets West. Because that's kind of the way I feel about with like breath work. You know, I can explain to you, because I am one of those type A recovering people who needs to know everything about why it physiologically works. But I've also witnessed all the weird mystical stuff and the healing and things that happen when people breathe. It's got to be really powerful with doing what you do.
Yeah.
And that East meets West kind of beauty.
It is. Well, and I am resistant to the logical side and like the medical side. I have to be proficient to speak about it for my business, but I feel like it robs the medicine. So like Chinese medicine comes from the Tao Te Ching, the I Ching, and the first line is the more you explain something, the less that it exists. So when we dissect something and measure it, and it's no longer it. Now it's something different.
Bastardized.
Yeah. The only thing that gives me solace about that is that, and tell me if you ever had this feeling studying anatomy, but when do we decide to stop going microscopic? Like, when do we stop going smaller? Because we take a particle and we get smaller and smaller to an atom and we stop there, but you could keep going and going smaller until you're nothing but like a geometric shape. and then it goes back
then
to the magic.
Fractal patterns, and
so you can start
back
here.
to fashion mycelium, and then I can take it all the way back to the hippie stuff. The more they want to break it down.
That's what I mean. It goes like esoteric to like physics, and then back to esoteric. Yeah,
It really does. That's the arc. That's well said.
Thank you.
That is very well said. So what else, is there anything that people would need to know about Chinese medicine? Like if somebody was scared to do it, what would you tell that person who was maybe a little hesitant to do it?
Okay, so I would have had like a whole spiel about this, but I think I just changed it recently. Ooh. So what I normally say is, if you were watching TV, I could put a needle in you and you wouldn't know if it was in your arm or your leg. Like I practiced being, I put needles in my own palm.
Yeah, I didn't even feel it. I was like, huh?
Well, and I prided myself on that, on my patient not feeling much, because in school some doctors don't care and they want you to have a big sensation.
Yeah.
So it can also feel good. Like your body knows something's happening. It can feel like a type of release. And I always tell my patients too, if it's going to be something that benefits you, you're going to know after one treatment. So it's not like you can trust your investment, that it's not going to take thousands of dollars to see any results. Like you'll know after one time if it's going to affect you positively. And I feel like a lot of people don't say that because they don't want to lose the business, but then you rob the medicine of like its power. But then recently I had an experience where I was like downloaded the information how important suffering is for healing, and that maybe I don't even know if I want to say this, it's going to scare people away, but maybe I should use a little thicker gauge needle, or maybe I should to stimulate more, because the experience of the fear or the little bit of pain is also creating a chemical reaction in your body. That's probably the benefit. And so I might be experimenting with more aggressive. I don't even want to say that. Maybe not. I'll leave it up to, I'll leave it up to the patient. No, I'll leave it up to them. I'll explain that to them, and then I'll be like, you choose.
Well, but if somebody's come to you once or twice and they're not having that same stimulus, like I view that as an opportunity. It's like the same thing with loading them with exercise. Like I got to give them something different so their nervous system can adapt to it.
That's true.
Forget the overload principle of weight, just changing the stimulus on their nervous system.
And do I want to make them comfortable, or do I want them to heal? Yeah. But like when someone's in a migraine, like if they're throwing up or in a miserable migraine, there's a protocol where needles go in every fingertip and every toe tip. And it's so aggressive, but they don't even notice because they're so miserable, but it can pull them out in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, so headaches, is headaches something else that you treat a lot of?
Yes, I actually used to specialize. I worked in a neurologist office for 2 years, and we just did migraines.
That could help a lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah. Most of my migraine patients can see me like 4 times a year to mitigate migraines.
Yeah, you just like a quarterly check-in to make sure that you're in. I'm getting attacked over here.
Throwing out an experiment for your followers. Physically, a migraine is just a lack of blood flow to your head. That's it. So then, wouldn't going into headstand or handstand for a couple minutes remedy any migraine? And I don't get migraines or headaches, so I can't do it on myself, but I always say that because I'm like, someone do it and tell me. Like the next time you're having a really bad headache or a migraine, just go on your head, because the science says that should cure it.
Dude, going upside down is another one of those low-hanging fruit things that people just don't do very often.
Well, people don't know.
We can only educate and embody an example.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get Ashley to go upside down on the paddleboard. She was kind of bragging earlier, so like I gotta see it. Last time my buddy Ron went upside down and a herd of manatees went underneath him. Like I'm talking like 8 to 10. Like it was crazy.
That's magical.
He went up in a headstand and just like right underneath. That's crazy.
I never pass up an opportunity to show off.
You are a little bit of a ham.
A
little bit of a ham. I like that about you, though. All right, final thoughts on acupuncture and cupping. Is there anything else that we would need to know if you'd never done it and you needed to try it out? How else can you help people? Any just kind of closing thoughts on this?
There's so many. I can talk for hours.
I can just help you.
I'm in love with the medicine, so I can speak passionately about what it is.
Yeah.
No, I think I like my past closing statement. That one treatment's all you need to know if you're gonna like it.
I think that's good. Yeah. So it's worth the shot. So I would say that too. If you haven't done it, I 100% would do it again. And I've it's probably been 6 months since I've done it, and like I actually was like craving to do it again. So maybe before I got to Arizona, I need to come see you again.
And like breath work, you get high on your own supply.
You do. I felt freaking.
So if nothing else, you get a little buzz.
After that.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Okay, Ashley, I ask people 4 questions every time they come on here, so I teed you up a little bit. So one of my big mantras is I get to, I need to, I want to, I will. So it always starts with gratitude. What do you get to do
So my favorite word in life is the word play. I almost say my practice one, which is play in Chinese, but I get to play every day of my life. I've created a life where I'm just playing all the time.
Yes.
Yes. So I feel like I hit the jackpot with my career.
No, you're the way that you carry yourself and watching you like work, you are joyful in what you do, and you're so calm, and your energy is. I even forget all the science that she just said. If you just go spend a little bit of time around, you have kind of a healing, joyful, playful presence. Oh, geez.
Thank you.
No, you really do, because as like we were talking about on the way here, like, you know, I kind of went away from being the hippie person, and, you know, I was chasing career and doing some of those kind of things, and, you know, when you are following your bliss, so to speak, and you are being playful, like I had people that always told me I needed to be more professional, but being playful and having fun and being joyous is part of the magic.
Yeah, and it's the most like Tao you can be. That's why I love Annette, because she embodies the jester, which is like the highest level of, not to say that I'm like the highest level, but like I just I think play is like one of the most important tenets of life, and I get to do it every day in my job. So that is what I get to do.
The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his love and his leisure, his passion and his recreation. To him, he is always doing both, and he leaves it up to others to decide if he is working or playing.
Yes.
It's
Powerful.
my favorite quote.
And in the West, it's it was becoming, especially with COVID, it's becoming less so. But that was very much the antithesis to what a successful adult was. Yeah, it's like you have to earn it, you have to suffer, which is...
Suffer. The word suffer just bothers me.
But now I like it, because I had that experience. There's pleasure in suffering.
It's not suffering, though, because suffering is a choice to the response. Because the way that I coach people to look at it is when you're in pain or when you're suffering, you don't have to be suffering. You can choose to see it as it is that growth experience.
Right.
I look at it as paying that cost of admission. I was talking to my client who's an ultra marathoner, and we were literally, was telling a story about how she had her best run she's ever had, and she almost quit after 4 miles.
Yeah.
Because she hurt and she was struggling, and then she flipped that gear into ideal performance state. She could have suffered. So I was talking about flow and paying that price of admission, and then you said you were going to take it where?
To BDSM.
Okay.
That's the perfect example of when the suffering becomes erotic. So if you can take suffering and make it your practice and pleasure, which is, I think there's also a subset of women that can orgasm when they deliver a baby because they've practiced like changing it in their brain, suffering to pleasure. Yeah.
God, there's so much weird stuff with our brains and that channel and how we choose to respond.
Do you know, I don't know if this is true, someone told me that when they were studying how to torture like victims of war or captures of war, that they would get to a point where the torture would become pleasure and they would have to stop. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah, because people would like almost like your nervous system gets wired to it.
Yeah.
You want that routine, like you expect it, then people experience it forever afterwards because they're still looking for that feeling, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's a trauma response. People date the people that are likely to. You know what I mean?
You
like
get
it's
addicted to them.
It's all part of that same loop, which is amazing again because it sounds like anytime you flush out your nervous system or you change that pathway or you get rid of that blockage, healing can happen.
And the ways you can do that is breath work, acupuncture,
all sorts
plant
of
medicine.
things.
Yeah.
Plant medicine. Yeah, you're excited to talk about plant medicine. All right, second question is, I want to study. I want to recreate a different subset of acupuncture based on geometry. And I'm not inventing it. Other acupuncturists have done it. There's a couple books, but it's based on the shapes that the needles make as opposed to the meridians they're on and the organs you're treating. Like the same with like yoga, the shapes that things make are like coding our surroundings. And I think that that would be a really cool way to explore acupuncture. And if I could figure it out that the shapes I'm creating are creating the outcomes in the patients as opposed to like the protocols that I've been taught, it would be super dope and fun. Can you give me an example? So like, are you talking about like circles or triangles? Like there's a meridian, you know?
So yeah, like in yoga, a triangle pose, your body's making a triangle, and then that shape in the universe is supposed to facilitate an outcome in your life. And so, and like within the connective tissue, the fascia, there's all these different, it's a geometric pattern. So an unblocking, where there's like gluey substance blocking meridians and allowing blood flow to make certain shapes within the body, via the connective tissue, would that warrant the same changes in like healing that using the
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. So it's a way to continue to keep exploring the craft, which is awesome.
Yes, yeah.
Which is what's so cool about where we work, is there's people pursuing mastery and all of these different things all over the place.
People just let us do whatever we want to them. They trust us.
Yeah. It's pretty magical. And that placebo effect's got a pretty good track record too. It's actually over 50%.
Yeah.
So if you believe it, it works.
Yeah. But you don't have to believe it for it to work.
You don't. Yeah. That's even better when they don't believe it. I love when somebody doesn't believe in breathwork and they walk out of there like, what was that?
I had that experience. I keep veering off the questions,
You're
but
fine.
I had that experience with breathwork. Like, I thought that I believed in it, and then when I experienced it, I was like, oh, I don't actually believe in it, because I guess a part of me thought there was some performance space, because I share a wall with you guys. So I'm needling people, and randomly I just hear cries and screams and moans, and my patient's like, what's in that room?
What's going on in there?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's breathwork, and I talk about like releasing emotional trauma.
Yeah.
And I talk about it, but then I realized I thought some of it was performance-based. Like, those people want to be heard that way, or they want to be seen that way, and so they're choosing to cry or scream.
Dude, things just happen.
And then when I was with Keith, I was in there breathing, and I was like, I'm not fucking crying in front of my coworker. Like, I'm not, and I was fighting, I was like, what? I was so angry that I couldn't control it. Ooh. And then I was like, yeah, which is part of why I postponed mine with you, because I'm like, I want to be vulnerable with all these people I work with.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's just energy. Yeah, it's just energy moving. But it made me really be like, this shit is real, because I was in so much resistance to having an emotional response, and I couldn't fight it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I said I want to. I skip. I need to. What do you need to do?
My taxes.
I need to do your taxes.
I need to hire an accountant.
Do you pay them quarterly or what?
I am so like tunnel vision on the craft that I don't. I need to step back and do a macro look at the business part and put some people in place that can make me a full functioning adult instead of just like a mad scientist.
I mean, I know some pretty badass business coaches and things like that too, if you ever need it.
I just don't want to do I want somebody else to do the business part, and I just want to do the acupuncture.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you just need to hire like
an
admin.
So I just need to figure.
Like
and I mean, we have the front desk. I have some help, but
Okay, that's a good I need to.
Yeah.
That's also working on your craft, by the way. It's not as fun.
But is that my craft? Like, I'm not like a business. I'm not an accountant. I mean, I am a business, but I'm not a business.
It's like, people have tea ceremonies, or they make their bed every certain day. There's part of the admin.
I don't want to do the boring things.
I know.
Life is too short.
I don't either. I avoid doing it.
But there's people that like that shit, and so I hire them.
God bless you.
Like
people.
William.
God bless people like William. God bless you. I don't get that.
Need you.
Awesome. And then what will you do? What will you do, Ashley?
So what I will do this year is I want to market to specific pathologies that I want more experience with, instead of just like allowing people to come in. I want to fish. Like, I really want to treat panic disorders this year, because I realize how much acupuncture helps, and how miserable those people can be when they're in the throes of one of those, and then certain other things too. Just a more focused study.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you go after that niche market, I would love that. Could be a way that we could position breathwork and acupuncture, because like that was my experience. That's how I found breathwork, because I was having panic attacks to the point that I got vertigo.
Yeah.
Like it was like I got hit in the head. I didn't know that. Yeah. Because when I was at Harbor Island, I had 30 direct reports. I was a manager of a club. I was at work every day at 5:45 in the morning. I had 2 kids under 5. I was trying to make my marriage work with young kids, working at a high level. I was going to Colorado. Like, I was doing all of these things. I was performing at a high level, but I was drinking alcohol, and I was smoking weed, and I was self-medicating more than I was even meditating at the time. It was my way of my nervous system was just like, fuck you, basically, and it completely shut down, and it was terrible. And what was funny is I went to my family's lake house in northern Wisconsin, which I couldn't wait for this vacation, and I got there, and I was around the trees and all the woods, and I had a panic attack at a pizza restaurant, like getting beer. Like, I freaked out. I couldn't sit there. My sister said like one comment to me, which wasn't that big of a deal, and like I literally freaked out. So that's really why I'm so passionate about it, because there is the performance side of it, being a coach and a trainer. Like, I want people to breathe better so they can perform better and they can less stress. But like, I really like helping those people who have anxiety more stress. Like,
Yeah.
that means a lot.
And I don't think I really had empathy for those type of patients because I've never experienced it. And so I could only have sympathy, not empathy.
Because you're always playing.
Exactly. And so I can't relate. So I'm happy to treat it. And I've had people with panic attacks tell me like I treated them once and they didn't have one for a couple months. And I'm like, cool. But then I got like a glimpse of what it's like. And I'm like, that's a nightmare. And I know I can help this.
Your nervous system is just freaking wired to it. So if you can unwire
Yeah. And yeah.
You can unwire them, and then maybe I guess it would probably be better afterwards that they would come do breath, and they can almost process that trauma and like exhale it out.
Well, and then I will go into my newish spiel about why I think breath work is so critical. If you would like.
I would love to hear this.
So I have had pain in my left leg for 6 or 7 years. I saw you for it when we were treatment. I told you, and it's been a source of shame because I'm in the business of getting people out of pain, and I can't fix my own leg, and I'm needling and cupping, and seeing you and seeing chiropractors and massage therapists and PTs, and like so much money invested in this leg for years. And so frustrating. And then 2 weeks ago, I went to like an ayahuasca ceremony, and the first night I drank, I relived a memory that was like traumatic, but I never think about it. Like it didn't feel like a part of me or that important. It felt minor, but I relived it, and all the pain in my leg is gone. And I still every day I'm like, there's no way. Same with the breath work. I'm like, I believed in it, but then did I really believe in it? Because I'm still like so shocked that it happened to me. So it made me think like, how many of my patients will I never be able to heal because it's an event, it's not something structural. And I know through breath work, like it can do the work for you. And that's when I was like, I really need to make sure I refer patients to do that, because if it is something coming from a past traumatic event or an emotional thing, like there is some acupuncture points that can induce that type of response, but I don't believe the flush that's really needed.
Well, it's the access to the subconscious mind is what's really powerful.
And the breath is how you get there.
Exactly. And is it capital T trauma or lowercase t trauma? It doesn't matter.
It's just energy.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing that I want people to understand, because I felt like I had shame in that I was having anxiety. Like, I'm like, I've got everything. Like, I got the successful career, I've got the wife, I've got the kids. Like, who am I to complain? I'm a privileged white guy complaining about my trauma. But we all have it. So everybody needs to be okay. Like how you said, I don't want to be vulnerable. Like, I really think that everybody needs to be okay talking about those times so they can get rid of the shame. Like, shame sits in here. Your body keeps the score.
Yeah, and I have all the books. I have so many patients that, when did your pain start during my divorce? When did your pain start when my dad died? Like, I know it's there, but then to experience healing, especially for me, because I'm like, I don't have trauma. Like,
I don't have it.
Yeah, and then to experience that, I was like, oh shit, what else? You know? But it's magic, and I want everyone to experience it. So
And it's kind of the same thing. Like, everybody should go experience Chinese medicine, and they should go see a breath coach and do an actual like 60 or 90-minute deep dive into your breath, because they might be a little uncomfortable, but the healing and the processing that happens is
or just get more in touch with like the machine that is your body. Like, there's all these functions we don't know about, and these like superpowers that are in you that we never play with.
You don't use it, you lose it. Period. You have to move different ways, you have to learn different things, you have to try different things, and that's why when you play, a lot of the magic happens. I heard you say that over and over again. It's very apparent in your philosophy, but it's not just like a whimsical, like I'm playing like I'm being that Joker. It's playing with a purpose.
It's a spiritual practice.
It's a spiritual practice, and that's what's creating, and that's why you're so good at what you do. That's why best in the...
Well, that's going to wrap it up with Dr. Ashley Heintz. Had a couple technical difficulties. We continue to talk about how Ashley is a bad dog mom. That's not true, Ashley. We all love Pythagoras. But you can tell what a magical person, how talented Dr. Ashley Heintz is, and just what a ham. Look at these hair whips. I feel very fortunate to share an office with Ashley, and I'm glad that you guys got to understand what makes her tick, and hope that you give acupuncture a shot. She's best of the Bay for a reason. All hail the queen.
Awesome. Thank you.